Rebel religion in the news.
I love that music. Welcome to Rebel Religion in the News. I'm Jerry Lemon, Fredo Romero of Rockavie Fellowship, and Pastor Brennan DeForest of Redeemer Evangelical Lutheran Church. Both of their ministries are in Chico, California. We started a segment yesterday, previous show, about last words before somebody goes into the hereafter. And we might repeat some of what we had yesterday, but it turned into be a very interesting discussion. And you look bemused.
I know. I don't want to say what I'm thinking.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you in a bit. You use the word the hereafter.
Hereafter, yeah.
And I don't know if I should even say this.
Go ahead and say it.
Well,
say it.
it's a little slightly blue. But remember that word hereafter always reminds me of the skit on Laugh-In. Remember when Artie
Johnson.
he would walk up to Ruth Buzzy, who just passed away.
Yes.
Bless her family.
She had a long life.
Yeah, 88. But she was sitting as the old lady on the bench, and he was always trying to use these pickup lines on her.
Yeah.
And one time he'd walk up, he'd say these crazy things. He'd walk up all slow, and he'd sit down by her, and he looks at her and says, "Do you believe in the hereafter?" And she goes, "Oh." Then he goes, "Well, then you know what I'm here after." So I'm just saying, every time I hear that word, I remember.
I was wondering.
Laughing.
I thought I said something funny. What did I say?
You said the word hereafter. I just remember it's just stuck in my mind.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Boy, bringing back a memory. Well, anyway, we're talking about famous last words, and I'm going to repeat a couple of them from some atheists, and some of them are very. For instance, Thomas Paine, leading atheist, stay with me. He basically, some of these are confessions. He says, stay with me for God's sake. No, don't leave. Stay with me. Send even a child to stay with me, for I am on the edge of hell here alone. If ever the devil had an agent, I have been that one. David Hume, atheist philosopher, famous for his religious skepticism, he cried out loud at his deathbed, "I am in flames." It is said his desperation was a horrible scene. And some of these from atheists actually sound like confessions on some of these. Like they realize at the last moment that everything that they believed on earth was wrong. And it makes you wonder God's divine justice.
Yeah.
Is it justice for someone like if Adolf Hitler, we don't know if Adolf Hitler is in heaven, or Mussolini, or Pol Pot, or Stalin. We don't know what happened at moments before they died. And us as human beings, and since God is in our image, we go and say, well, justice would say that this person does not belong in heaven. But that's where I guess Jesus comes in.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's always. I mean, with somebody like Hitler, it's nice to die with somebody there. With you, or nobody wants to be alone when they're dying. I guess I should say.
Right.
Hitler, I think he died alone in his little
Eva Braun may have been there as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, how many people have I met who don't want to die alone, and I'm with them, and all they say to me is just Pastor, stay with me, or Pastor, stay here, or Pastor, where are my children? Or if their children are there, they're happy that they're all there.
Mm-hmm.
And so then their last words become, just thankfulness for all the gifts God's given them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like Hitler,
it's hard to imagine.
There's a lot of things, like even Sam Berkowitz, the son of Sam. I've mentioned this a couple of times. He killed a lot of people. He was a serial killer, and I think was it San Francisco or was it
New York City?
New York, yeah, New York, and
Subways.
Yeah, and he's in prison right now, and
he's preaching the word of God.
Word of God. He's repented. And I'm pretty sure that there's someone out there that would look at him and go, "Why is he going to go to heaven? Look what he did."
Yeah.
But then I think, well, look what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that. Interesting enough, I was looking up the famous last words. George Harrison, who can debatably, you can have an argument whether he really truly knows Jesus or not, but. They recorded his last words. I mean, there was they had a camera there and everything, and as he's dying, and then they recorded his last words were "love one another."
Yeah,
which is half of the, what Jesus tells us to do.
Besides, here comes the sun. I mean, give me love,
give me love. Yeah, all you need is love. But that's not true.
No, that's John Lennon.
All you need is Jesus.
Love.
Yeah. But but his famous last words were love one another. I'm thinking, I just saw something on famous last words too, and it just really does tell where a person's heart is at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember the thief on the cross, his last words.
It makes me wonder, should we be thinking about every moment of the day, or at some point during the moment of the day, thinking this could be my final moments on earth, where we need to be thinking about where our final resting place is? Or are we being then too consumed with what our finally, is it possible to be too consumed with or worrisome of where we're going to be, which might be a lack of faith, if we're constantly thinking about it when we should be more secure with our faith? I don't know if that makes sense to you, Pastor. Can we be too consumed with it? Oh, I got to make sure I'm praying. I got to make sure I'm praying so that I'm in heaven, so that if I die in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to be there. Is that sort of a lack of faith? Whereas what you need to do is just live your life with the knowledge, the secure knowledge that, okay, when I die, I'm going to be there. Or do we need to constantly be thinking about it? Is it possible to overthink it?
I think it's both, probably.
Right.
Like, the proper amount of the clutch and the gas if you're driving a stick shift.
Uh-huh. Oh, good one.
I don't drive a stick shift, so.
I have. Yeah.
But sorry, no, I'm thinking. Yeah, if you as Christians, we should always have an awareness of whenever our last day is.
Mm-hmm.
Because
You never know.
we don't know, yeah. But as Christians, in the awareness that any day could be our last day, we can also have the certainty of the resurrection, of heaven, of the forgiveness of sins,
The assurance
all
of
those great things.
salvation.
Yeah, the assurance of salvation.
But it calls on us to be almost supermen, because since we don't really have, do we really have control of our final destination? How strong does our faith have to be to please God, to say just a kernel, right?
Faith like a mustard seed.
That's enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 Thessalonians 5 says the word is strive for holiness.
Right.
It doesn't say attain holiness. It
Right.
says strive, pursue it in some translations. It's strive, pursue a pleasing to God, because we're going to stumble. That's what His mercy and grace is for. Interestingly enough, one person's last words I wanted to get to. If you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, she basically started Planned Parenthood and
Right.
abortion advocate, etc. Although they very nicely here say birth control advocate. But yeah, okay. But her last words were, "A party. Let's have a party." And I don't know where she wanted to have a party, what she was seeing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Only the Lord knows. But I don't think those would be my last words. I saw a meme of somebody that was passing away, and it was about last words, and the perfect words at that moment would be, "I'm coming home, Lord. Take me home." That would be a good thing.
But I guess if Jesus was the example, maybe our last word should be, "Into thee I commend my spirit."
Yeah,
Was that the final words of Jesus?
that's a great model.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's the Gospels give to either said, "Into your hands I commit my spirit," or "It is finished,"
Right.
Yeah.
as his last words. Yeah.
Joseph Stalin, great guy, Soviet revolutionary and politician. In a
Yeah.
Newsweek interview,
I very admired him.
his
yeah.
daughter told of his death. And she says, "My father died a difficult and terrible death. God grants an easy death only to the just. In what seemed the very last moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and cast a glance over everyone in the room. It was a terrible glance, insane, or perhaps angry. His left hand was raised as though he were pointing to something above and bringing down a curse on us all. The gesture was full of menace. The next morning, he was dead." Ooh, yeah. These kind of things, people should read these kind of things.
Yeah.
There are lessons to be learned in the lives of others.
Michael Landon was a big actor, Little House on Prairie, Bonanza, Highway to Heaven. And I really admired him. And when he passed away, I was very sad, because I loved everything he did. Now, he was a Christian. He professed his faith, and a lot of his shows were faith-based. But his last words, as if he was talking to someone, he said, "You're right. It's time." I love you all. And that's what he said. And I thought, that's pretty good. Okay,
Boy,
Lord.
I tell you another one. Maybe we'll look it up during the break. Sam Kinison.
Oh, yes.
Oh
Great
my goodness,
story.
his story is amazing.
Great,
Well,
amazing.
we should probably look it up because I want to make
I'm
sure.
gonna look it up right
I'll
now.
let you look it up as
I'll
I
get it.
continue another discussion. Yeah, Sam Kin. Well, I'll save the story. Okay, don't go away. The Sam Kinison story is amazing.
It is totally amazing.
and it's one of. Pastor, have you heard this one?
No.
This is a sermon. You need to
Okay.
listen to this one. This
Okay.
is a good one. As we do that, I do want to mention another one. Where is this one? Oh yeah, Charles the Ninth. French king, urged on by his mother, he gave the order for the massacre of some French people, in which 15,000 souls were slaughtered in Paris alone and 100,000 in other sections of France for no other reason that they loved Christ. He finally died, bathed in blood bursting from his veins. To his physician, he said in his last hours, asleep or awake, I see the mangled forms of those people passing before me. They drop with blood. They point at their open wounds. Oh, that I had spared at least the little infants at the bosom. What blood! I know not where I am. How will all this end? What shall I do? I am lost forever.
Yeah.
Oh, I have done wrong. Boy, oh boy. Sometimes these kind of things are just overwhelming. We have less than a minute in this segment, but the Sam Kinison story, have you found it?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, well, don't go to it
I'm
yet.
not saying yet.
We'll save it for the second segment, but you
I
have something?
think Christians would do well thinking about last words, last events, to read like the martyr stories or stories of martyrs from throughout the centuries.
Right. It's a good point. We're focusing on all the negative.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. We're
But,
focusing on the lost souls.
Yeah, some of the martyr stories are very, powerful. Like Saint Lawrence, he brings all the poor people to the king and says, "These are the treasures of the church." And then he's being roasted on the spit, and he says, "I'm quite done on this side. Turn me over."
Right.
And then he dies. Yeah.
Oh, gee. We're going to take a break. Famous last words.
Yeah, that's
we
crazy.
found the Sam Kinison one. Really an interesting tale. We'll be right back with Rebel Religion in the News. Famous last words when we come back.
So we've just been talking about famous last words, and one of the stories that we want to say, because it's so powerful, was in the 80s and 90s, there was this comedian, 80s I believe, it was Sam Kinison. And if you don't know Sam Kinison, look him up. He's extremely funny, but be careful because he's a little blue at times. And he was famous for his comedy of screaming. He would scream things out. And I'll say this one more time. But basically, one of his best skits was talking about sending food to people that lived in desert, desolate places. There was famine. And he would start saying, I was thinking about this the other day. And I was thinking, you guys live in a desert. And I just thought about it. And I came up with this idea. How about if we just take you to where the food is? And he's going, we'll make one trip. We'll send him U-Hauls. We'll send him suitcases. And he said, come on, get your kids, pack your bags. We got deserts in America. We just don't live there. So he's just famous screamer. And but interestingly enough, when he started out as a young man, he started out as a child evangelist. Yeah. He was like a Baptist preacher. He'd scream when he was preaching, and he grew up to be a young man. But he was so entertaining, so wonderful as a preacher. He decided to become a comedian, and he became blue. I mean, up front, it was some of it was pretty nasty, but he always had his faith, whatever that is. He'd always profess his faith. But tragically, he died in a car accident in 1992. He was on his way back from a show in Vegas with his girlfriend and his brother. And a 17-year-old teenager crossed the line and hit him head on.
Yeah.
Now, at first, it looked like Sam Kinison was okay. His brother got out of the car, the girlfriend got out of the car, and Sam Kinison got out of the car. And as he seemed a little dazed, and his brother asked him, are you okay? But
This actually happened in Needles, California.
That's right.
Okay, he was age 38 years old.
Yeah, young man.
Go ahead.
No, young man. And
This was April 10th, 1992.
And the most interesting thing is he got out of his car, and his brother reported that he kneeled down, and he started talking to someone, and he said, but I don't want to die. And he's looking at something. He goes, but I don't want to die. I don't want to go. And then he said, his last words were, why now? Why now? I don't want to die. And there was a pause, and Sam Kinison said, oh, okay. And he fell over and died.
Yeah.
That is remarkable. That's just one of those things where he's talking to somebody. Now, who that somebody is, an angel or Jesus, I don't know. Yeah. But he actually was like in angst, and he said, I don't want to die, but why now? And all of a sudden, oh, okay. And he dies. It's a remarkable story.
And Sam Kinison didn't, I think, well, none of us have lived a holy life, right?
No,
So all of us are, none of us are good, but he was very public with some of what he had done. And like you said, he was very blue.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jesus was laughing at his jokes.
I
doubt that he was laughing at his jokes.
Some of the jokes are really clean, depending on what movie he was in.
Right.
But his stand-up was, one moment you'd love it, and the next moment you're going, ay.
Yeah.
He was blue like that. But his final words are well documented, and the 17-year-old boy actually did end up in prison for a while. So that was pretty sad too. I mean, what would you say? Just tragically enough to take someone's life in a car accident, but the life of somebody, any life is valuable. But Sam Kinison, that's going to stick with him,
right?
Forever.
Because it's their in perpetuity. I mean, his story is.
Yeah.
It was all you could do is imagine. And what we want to imagine is that he was talking to Jesus.
Yeah.
We want to imagine that God was there and saying, you know what? By you dying, more people are going to come to me. That's what I'm hoping was said. We don't know. We want to think what we want to think. I wish we had answers to these questions.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
You'll have to look up Sam Kinison.
You got to go Sam.
Yeah. I will.
You'll be guiltily laughing.
Yes. Yeah. He was an interesting guy. And it comes down to particularly the atheists. When we talk about that, we always hope that God's giving all of us one last chance when we're on our deathbed. And I know that you were telling a story, I believe, first in part one yesterday about a member of your church.
Yeah.
And it was the Nicene, not the Nicene, the Apostles' Creed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there was a famous blues singer, Bessie Smith, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and her final words were, "I'm going home, but I'm going home in the name of the Lord." And that's what you want. You want a peaceful time. Yeah. I was with my father when he passed away, and he had a major heart attack, and nobody saw it coming. And the thing about that was, it wasn't a pleasant ending to see, and I was the only one with him, but. It took me by surprise. But his last words, the ones that I remember, was I used to work for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, and there was a kind of revival. I heard Franklin Graham in 2018, and I was working the front as a prayer member. And I was telling him about it, showing him the pictures, and he kept saying, "Oh, this is awesome, son." And he said, quote, he says, "I'm so proud of you, son. I'm so proud of you." And the next thing you know, there was something wrong with him, and he clutched his chest, and he said, "My left arm," and he died.
When my mother was getting ready to die of cancer, I remember talking to a Lutheran pastor, Ray Christensen in Las Vegas was his name, and he said, "Jerry, it's not going to be what you think. It's not going to be what you think. It's going to be a beautiful moment. You're going to be surprised." And he was right. He was right. I feared so much my mom was dying. And that's the only deathbed I was at. And it was one of the most memorable, beautiful moments of my life. I'll never forget that. I wrote it all down, every moment that I spent with her. I mean, where I was giving her ice and giving her water and talking to her, telling how much I loved her, what a difference she made in my life.
Yeah.
And it can be, for a believer, I'm guessing it could be a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And that's the only deathbed I've been at. And I remember telling her, and I've heard so many stories like this. I told her, I actually got on top of her. It was somebody recommended. Get on your mom and whisper in her ear. Tell her that it's okay, that you're going to be okay. She needs to hear that. And I did. And then Mother Nature called. I had to go to the bathroom. And I came back a few minutes later and she was gone.
Yeah.
I hear these stories
Yeah.
all the time. And I hear stories like my mom when she was out and her eyes moved over to the left, like someone else is walking in the room, like an angel. I'll never forget it. I wrote that down. I wrote it down that night. And my mom and I were best buddies. And so it was very difficult to write, but I wrote every minute of it down. And her eyes were like following an angel. And I don't know if you've ever heard stories like that. I hear stories like that a lot.
Yeah, I just had a member who died, who talked about seeing other people or talking to other people in the room when there was nobody there. And I think I found that happens a lot, surprisingly, or more often than I would expect. So.
Yeah, I have the honor of being with several family members as they passed away. My brother, my dad, my grandfather, my stepfather. But the one that hits me, and my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law is the one that hit me. We were in the room, and basically she looked up, opened up her eyes, gasped, and said, and then she passed away. She saw something.
Famous last words. Hey, our last words on this show right now. Thank you so much for joining us. Pastor Brendan DeForest of Redeemer Lutheran Church. They have a service time 10 o'clock on Sunday morning over on Moss Avenue. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank
really
you.
a very interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Out of time. So long, everybody. Take good care. God bless.
Rebel religion